Time now for our Entre Nous segment. As Catholic cardinals remain sequestered, of course, for that conclave, many of the Roman Catholic Church's 1.4 billion followers are waiting with bated breath to find out the name of the next pope. For more on what's behind papal names, then, Solange Moujon joins me now on set. Hi there, Solange. So there's one name that is highly unlikely to be chosen as the next pope. What is it?
Well, it's Peter. So why is Peter an absolute no-no? Well, the first pope was Peter the Apostle, and his birth name was actually Simon, and it's Jesus that renamed him, saying, according to the Bible, "You are Peter, and on this rock I build my church." So out of respect to the first pope, but also because there is a centuries-old prophecy that says that the last pope will also be named Peter, the name is, at least when it comes to the pontiff, informally off limits. And there have been popes that actually whose baptized names of Peter they've had to change their names when they became pope to avoid this, such as Peter Canova in the 10th century. He became John the 15th to avoid being called Peter the Second. So is this why there is this tradition of changing your name when you become pope? Well, not exactly, or at least only partially. The tradition actually began with John II, who was pope from 533 to 534, and he actually changed his name because his given name was Mercurius, and he thought it was too similar to the pagan god Mercury. But this name changing, which is now so much a part of the process of taking on the identity of the pontiff, even setting the tone of one's agenda as pope, well, it didn't really catch on as common practice until the 10th century, when just elected popes from countries like France and Germany, well, they decided to pick more Italian-like sounding names to be like those that came before them. And since then, there have been a few men that have kept their birth names, like Marcellus II and Adrian VI, but for the most part, the name change, at least now, is an integral part of the solemn moment that is imbued with history.
So, Solange, some papal names, of course, are more popular than others.
Yeah, Peter is not the only name that has only been chosen once. There have actually been 44 times of these first-time names among the 129 popes that have chosen a new name of the 266 in total, soon to be 267. But most of the names do have Roman numerals attached to them. Now, what are some of the most popular names? Well, John tops the list with 21 popes having chosen that name, followed by Gregory and Benedict. And one of the things that's interesting about Benedict is that the official tally is 15 popes, but we just had Pope Benedict XVI. Why the discrepancy? Well, Pope Benedict X was declared an anti-pope and expelled, so he is no longer counted in the official tally by the Vatican. Now, another name tidbit for you is that there have been only two popes with a double name. That's John Paul I and John Paul II. The composite name was initially chosen in 1978 to signal a commitment to reform, John, but also to tradition, Paul. But the papacy of John Paul I was only 33 days long, so John Paul II decided to pay tribute to him and to continue with that message.
So moving on then, Solange, let's talk also about what influences a cardinal once he has been elected to pick one name over another, especially with all of the possible choices. Is it a personal or more of a collective decision?
Well, it is a personal choice, but it is one that is taken with full knowledge of how that choice will send a message, and instantly, about who the person is, what they believe in, what they want their papacy to focus on. And that is part of what the voting cardinals discuss when they write down the given name of the individual popes that they want, the individual cardinal that they want as a potential new pope.
What happens inside is that each of the cardinals writes on a slip of paper which says in Latin something along the lines, "I choose as Pope so-and-so." They write it down in their own handwriting, and they are encouraged to masquerade their handwriting. Then these votes are counted, and if there are enough, a new pope has been elected. If there are not enough, they go to another vote.
Now, many of the previous popes have chosen their names by paying tribute to their predecessors and what those popes did. This can work the other way too, making names like Urban and Pius unlikely because Urban VIII started Galileo's trial, Pius XII and his role in World War II. Pope Innocent XIV is also unlikely because of the current abuse scandal involving the church that may be crossed out as a possibility by the future pope. So the history is analyzed by the chosen cardinal, many of whom enter the Sistine Chapel. They already have an idea of their "if ever I'm chosen" name in their heads. We don't know them, of course. Another thing that's often taken into consideration is what principles did this or this pope stand for. We saw that with Pope Francis. He chose the name Francis after St. Francis of Assisi because of his embracing of the poor, which spoke to his vision of what he wanted his papacy to be about. It was actually a huge surprise when the name Francis, or I should rather say Franciscum, was announced from the balcony because there had never been a pope by that name before. And it had been over 1,000 years since there was a new, as yet unused papal name. This time around, there are other possibilities of non-used before names. Joseph, James, Andrew, and Luke all of those have never been used, so we'll have to wait and see.
Now, this is, of course, the question, I think, on most people's minds who are following this vote. How and when will we know who the next pope, the 267th pope, will be?
Well, as cardinals told us and told the press in the days prior to the conclave and prior to being locked away in the Sistine Chapel, there is a long list of names of individuals who could be the next pope.
A short list of names?
No, not yet.
They asked me if there's a name, and I said yes. There are 133 names.
But are things leaning in the direction of continuing Pope Francis's legacy, a continuity?
Yes, it's our desire.
But is there a short list of names?
All of them.
So it remains a mystery until we see that white smoke, although it is not expected to be a long conclave. If we look at the length of time in the 20th and 21st centuries, it's generally been under 5 days to pick and name the new pope. As for how we will hear the name of the next pope, most everyone knows the Latin exclamation of habemus papam, or we have a pope. But the speech is actually longer and more complex than that. A senior cardinal, and this time it will actually be the French cardinal Dominique Mamberti, who will utter in Latin, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Annuncio vobis gaudium magnum habebus papam. I bring you tidings of great joy. We have a pope. I apologize for the pronunciation. I did not take Latin. Then the original and given names are said in Latin, followed by the name, the last name in the Pope's original language. So for Pope Francis, Jorge Mario became Giorgio Mariam, followed by Bergoglio. And then, and only then, as it is customary for it to be the last word of the speech from the balcony, the chosen name of the Pope will be uttered. Of course, it is said in Latin as well. So last time it was Franciscum, and we'll have to wait and see what name it is this time. And then potentially for us that did not take Latin, we'll have to go run to our dictionaries and figure out what it all means.
The world is indeed waiting with bated breath. Solange Vougeant, thank you very much.